presentation that you've all been waiting for by introducing our speakers. Jay Heap currently serves as the Director of Virtual Learning for the Georgia Virtual School. He has 8 years of online experience, including teaching, content development, and administration. He was instrumental in creating the Georgia Credit Recovery Program, a free program available to all Georgia public school students. Serving as the manager of curriculum development for 2 years, he implemented a process for in-house course revision and creation that is currently being used in Georgia and implemented in 3 other state virtual schools. Prior to serving the online educational community, Jay taught business education in the Georgia School District. Jay holds a BS degree in business education and a master's degree in adult learning distance education, and is also a certified project manager. Let me take a sip of my juice and introduce Tammy. Tammy Eckert is currently a manager of instructional development at Georgia Virtual and has a master's degree from the University of Georgia in learning design and development. She has been part of the Georgia Virtual School since 2005. She previously developed courses, analyzed data, and taught for the Georgia Virtual School. In her current role, she is supervising 7 content development specialists and numerous subject matter experts for the school's development projects. She's a certified high school math teacher with experience teaching and developing both face-to-face and online content. So, I am ready to turn it over to you, Jay, and you can get started and show us what you're doing.
All right, well, thank you very much, Steve. We're happy to be here today and able to share our material with this group. Like Steve said, we are the Georgia Virtual School. We have been in existence since 2005, and we're a program of the Georgia Department of Education in the technology services area.
Jay, your voice is a little low. Could you speak up a little louder, I think?
I certainly can. How's that?
Yeah, not much better.
Not much better. Let me try something here. Okay, how's that? Maybe
okay,
that'll work.
It's better.
Okay, terrific. Sorry about that. We are a supplemental state virtual school, which means that we serve students throughout the state, either in a full class day or one class a day that they need. We also serve all public, private, and homeschool students in the state, so they are eligible to take our courses. According to the latest iNACOL report, we are the 4th largest state virtual school in the nation. That's something that we're very proud of, and that means that the material that we're creating is of value to the students in the state of Georgia, and that the school superintendents and principals see a value in the program that we provide. We have reached over 20,000 enrollments in our entire program, which includes the free credit recovery program that Steve had mentioned. We also offer AP test prep. As far as courses, we offer over 130 courses. Those areas include about 25 AP courses, several where we may be the only offering in the state. Clearly, some courses we have are probably offered in less than 5 schools, so that really provides an opportunity for students across the state to get AP classes they normally wouldn't be able to take. We offer world languages in 6 different languages, some up to the AP level. We also offer a variety of core type classes along with several elective and career technical classes. So we have a large class offering. We currently employ around 150 teachers, mostly on a part-time basis. So for the webinar, Steve asked me to kind of talk about how we got started and why we do the things the way that we do them. And so back in 2009, we had some real development challenges. Before that time period, most of our courses were created by our teachers within their course shells. So if we needed an accounting course the accounting teacher, created that course without much instruction or really a lot of integration technology. The entire course was built inside the learning management system. And we found that as we grew and we needed to offer more and more sessions of the course, we needed to have a much more robust content, and we needed to find a way to provide that. So we moved into a process of letting teachers begin to use technology and give them some guidelines on how to create the material. So we formed a group of teachers who were interested in creating material and got them together and said, okay, you're subject matter experts, but we want you to also create this material. So we provided them with the technology necessary to create the material, a content management program, a content creation software, material, video material, desktop capture material, in all those different areas. And what we found is that, it was a pretty big learning curve for our teachers to do that, to have to create the material themselves. So acting as subject matter expert, one of two things happened. Either because of the time constraints with our teachers, and like I said, most of them are part-time and they're working in a school now, they had limitations on their time. So what we were getting was either really great subject matter and not as great introduction or use of the technology tools that we've provided them, or because of the learning curve of the new technology, they were spending a lot of time and had good technology, but the material in itself was not as rich or robust as we wanted to. So we kind of had to look at that and make some decisions on how that worked. And we also want to look at how can we address all the learning styles that we were creating for students in each course and in each unit within the course. So those were some of the challenges. We wanted to make sure that we were moving from a flat content online that was mostly fixed reading and access to websites back in 2005 and 2006, and we wanted to take advantage of all the new technology that was available. So that was part of how we had to figure out what we could do in the development piece. So like the group that Tammy manages now, and I don't know if she was going to talk about this or not, but maybe I'll steal it from her. We developed development teams. So now we have groups of content developers that are experts in the technology, and we pair them with subject matter experts. And Tammy can talk more about that process and how that works, but I think we've gotten a lot of benefit of merging those two together. So we also, as we started looking at how we were going to create these courses, we had some things that, what outcome did we need to get from the course? One thing we wanted to make sure is no matter how it was viewed, what LMS we chose, and we were working in a couple at the time, how can we make sure that the material we created one time is useful in a multiple of learning management systems? Subsequently to the start of this, Georgia has also come along with a teacher resource link through our state longitudinal data system that provides teachers access to standard Pacific learning objects. And so we're not always sure what the tool for teacher viewing may be, whether it's in an LMS, directly in a browser. So we want to make sure that that material was available and useful to them. And we also want to make sure that whatever we created in the course didn't have an annual licensing fee. So we didn't want to go out and purchase material or lease material that, one, we didn't have a lot of control over the material, and two, that we were going to have to pay on an ongoing basis. Because like I said, the resources that we create are also available to every teacher statewide. So we have the potential of the resources being used for 50, 60, 70,000 students at a time. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't have any licensing issues when we were doing that. And we wanted to make sure that whatever came out of the course was a good product from a development team. So that's kind of what we were thinking about. as we went through the process. So once we figured out the process, we then had to come up with, okay, what kind of software are we going to use? What processes do we want? What are the different pieces? And this is actually a continuing process as we evaluate that every year. So part of what we needed to do is make sure that regardless of the user's platform who's creating the material, we had to have both PC and Mac versions because we use those. Because we offer a lot of math classes and high-level science classes, we need to make sure that any software we use had an equation editor. We wanted to look at something that was affordable, whether it's screen capture software, whether it's learning object creation software. It all had to be affordable. We wanted to be able to customize it because we do offer in different programs. Our credit recovery program has one look and feel, so it looks a little different. And then part of what Tammy will show you is our shared resources, which also has a kind of a little different look and feel. So I wanted to make sure it was customizable. Because the software was going to be used by multiple people, we didn't want to be mailing out CDs and discs, so we wanted to make sure that that our users could download, whether they needed a PC or Mac version, that it was downloadable and available. And we wanted to make sure that we could upgrade at a regular basis and not do that. So in the course of selecting products, we chose several pieces. We used some Adobe products. We used some products from Lectora, and how they all integrate in the course, Tammy can show you. And then we also decided that one of our tools would be the SoftChalk tool, so that we could have a consistent look and feel, but really bring in the objects and use many of the things inside of SoftChalk. So that's kind of how we came up with the process that Tammy's going to show you. And here's my information. If you have any questions, you can certainly feel free to email me. And you can also, Tammy will probably have it also, but if you want to look at some of the resources we've created, then there's the link for our resources also.
Let me jump in here and say that everyone will get a follow-up email, and all this information will be there. You'll have Jay and Tammy's email address. You'll have a link to the Georgia Virtual Learning.org resources, so don't have to write it down. All that will be there. So as we're turning it over, I'm going to launch one more poll and ask you about your teaching experience and what you do in the classroom, or maybe you do not teach. So if I can get a quick response there, and then while doing that, I will get ready to turn this over to Tammy, and we'll move forward with that. Somebody suggested that I should get some hot tea, which I have actually been getting a lot of hot tea today. So let me close this poll and share it. So, wow, more than a third of you are not classroom teachers in any way, virtual or face-to-face. More than half of you teach a fully online class. Really excellent. Okay, let me hide this, and actually last thing, because this is kind of interesting for, I think, all of us. The 3 virtual school webinars we have done have handled things relatively differently. Georgia Virtual has a department, a staff, that creates all their content. Orange Unified, which was the session we did 2 weeks ago, had their classroom teachers actually creating the content. And blendedschools.net had a combination of resources that created the content, and they used in SoftChalk because they wanted it to be customizable by the individual educators and individual schools. So there's a variety of ways that people get their content created, and none of them went out and bought it. So I'm curious, if I can get a couple more of you to respond, I would be happy to close the poll, because just under half of you have responded. Okay, great. Let me close the poll and I'll share it. And so a lot of you create some or all of your content, and only less than a third of you use purchase content. Interesting. Okay, that's good to know. And again, one of the models. So let me change the presenter over to Tammy.
All right. Well, I'm hoping you can see my screen. And if you can hear my neighbor's dogs, I apologize for that too, because they are barking in the background. So
I can see your screen great. Go for it.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm going to give you a little more detailed information about the development plan that we have for Georgia Virtual School. Like Steve said, we have a whole staff of people who develop the content for Georgia Virtual School. And when we do that, then when the courses are created, we have master courses that are then copied out each term for the teachers. So it works really well. We're able to keep up with the content that way, and we're sure that it meets all the standards. So let's talk a little bit about the process that my team follows. So we're basically on a 9-month schedule to create courses. And the courses that we create are typical 2-semester courses, so they're about 36 weeks of instruction. Occasionally we develop a half-credit course, which is just 18 weeks, but most are full-credit courses. The schedule that we follow is in August, we identify our subject matter experts. And for us, it's beneficial to have Georgia Virtual School teachers that can function in kind of a dual role that can teach and help us develop courses as a subject matter expert, just because they have the expertise in the learning management system and the other parts that we have to have them do. But we do go outside sometimes to find subject matter experts. We are doing some courses now with Race to the Top funds that included epidemiology and geology and power and energy technology, so some kind of crazy courses that we didn't have anybody on staff certified to teach or develop, so we've gone outside to find our subject matter experts. So once we've identified them and kind of given them the information on what they need to do, we start a mini training course for them, and by September they're submitting to us a project plan. And that project plan is completed via a Google form, and it includes the number of modules they're going to have in their course, the standards that will be covered in each of the modules, the assessment plan, so whether they're going to have a discussion, a couple quizzes, a test, just a plan on how they're going to assess knowledge in that module, and some outside resources that they intend to incorporate into that. So they really take the time. It takes them about 4 to 6 weeks to really put this together, but we found that taking the time at the front end really makes for a quality product at the end. So we appreciate all of their efforts there. So by the time they get that submitted and approved, we're into October. And during October to April, they submit content. And these subject matter experts, like Jay mentioned, are paired with an instructional designer that's on our team. We have 7 of them currently. And they trade content, and then the instructional designer works with SoftChalk. Then in April, we put all those courses out for review, and they complete a content review to make sure all the standards are met, that the question libraries, the test questions are correct and have good feedback, and then we're ready to offer those courses in the fall. So let's talk a little bit about submitting content, because this is really where the meat of the course is. Those subject matter experts submit a module at a time, and that usually is chunked in 7 to 10 days of instruction, give or take. They create a module script, and a module script is simply a Word document, and it includes the text that needs to be in the module, the instructional text. It includes any images that they find that they need to have incorporated. And sometimes with our more novice SMEs, we let them kind of say, I think this needs an image here, I'm having trouble finding something, and our instructional designers will work with them to help identify information. They also include activities that can be done, whether those are SoftChalk self-assessment activities, that's how we use those, but just some interactivity so they're not just reading text. And then outside links, those could be videos that we need to download and embed, or just additional resources that need to be there, or perhaps a handout. So all of that information is incorporated into the module script, and that script is submitted to the instructional designer, and then they work their magic using SoftChalk to create the modules. And I'm going to show you a whole bunch of examples so that you can see what that looks like as a finished product. Now, Jay kind of went over some of the rationale behind why we went with SoftChalk at the time, but there were also some design aspects that we were thinking of as we were working inside our LMS. So there were things that worked well for us and some things that we thought perhaps could look different, and if we could make that work with a different product, that would be great. So Jay kind of talked about portability and the fact that it would be great to be LMS agnostic. It would work everywhere, because I'm going to show you the variety of places that we use our content, and that was a big one so that we could move things around. Jay also mentioned that we wanted to brand it so that we could make those packages look a little different. We offer courses through Georgia Virtual School, which is our teacher-led section of our school. We have shared resources that are just out there on the web for anyone to use. You could use it as supplemental resources. You could use it if you were homeschooling. It's just there to use and share. And then we have our credit recovery program. So we wanted those to each look a little bit different. And I'll show you, I don't have our credit recovery module to show you, but I do have two of the others so you can kind of see how we made that work. We also wanted to be able to enhance content. We wanted the students to understand this is what you need to know, but this is a really cool fact that you might be interested in, and kind of direct them to some more information that might not be, that is just beyond the standards. We also, I apologize for the phone, we also needed it to incorporate multimedia. There needed to be able to be audio and video and images and other interactivities that we could use to really make those courses robust. We also needed additional, I put research, I was retyping this because my Google presentation didn't work, so we needed additional resources and handouts that we could put to, again, enhance the content. And we needed a way to distinguish those from the main information. Now we've got a focus on it being mobile friendly, with so many students having iPads or wanting to access things on phones or other tablets. The fact that it would be mobile friendly was something we're looking at now. Not all of our content works on a mobile platform or all mobile platforms, but that's something we're looking at because we think that students have access to some of that technology. And the last thing was that we were finding lots of good resources, external resources that we wanted to be able to incorporate. So whether that was using embed code or other ways to embed that content inside the course, that was another important part. So those were some of the things that we were looking at when we started looking at what kind of software would work. So with that, I'm going to show you a few examples. All right, so I tried to pick a variety of courses so everybody can see something they may be interested in. So we're going to start with AP European History. Like Steve said before, I am a certified math teacher, so this is definitely not my deal. But one of the things you can see here that this is an orange course. This is our shared content. So you can see powered by Georgia Virtual Learning here at the top, and that this is one of our shared resources. Now, one of the things we talked about was enhancing the content, and you can see here that the designer has incorporated some text poppers in SoftChalk, and you can see that this is not anything necessary to content, but it does explain to them in this AP course that the exam is going to be broken into 2 time periods. So this is an important thing for them to know, and it's simple to just put in there with the text popper. And you can see that she used several of these. And I liked this one because it actually gave some examples of what the successes and failures were of the revolution, so they could go back and look at those. On a different page in this course, she also used the text popper. Oh, and I've got this really big now. There we are. And this text popper, you can see, actually has audio embedded in it. And it was just a pronunciation. Shock, neck air. But you can see how convenient that is, that the kids can actually hear how to pronounce that if they were interested. And then on this last page of AP European History, we're going to talk about the fact that here's one of the images that the teachers thought would be good for the course. And if I hover over the image, then it gives me the information about the image, and it also gives the information that this image was in the public domain, so that there's a citation as to where the information came from. So there is a quick look at AP European History. And so now we're going to look at astronomy, and you notice now we've gone from orange to green, and this green course is what our Georgia Virtual School courses all look like. They're in this color scheme. The critter recovery is actually just swapping this. It's blue with green as opposed to green with blue. And we use this, so you can notice we put our module information here, but also at the bottom, this also gives us a place to note our Creative Commons licensing and our terms of use. And we have just recently, over the past 2 development years, so last year and this year, licensed our material under Creative Commons. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that just means that it can be used by others. And this is CC BY, so Creative Commons BY means attribution. You have to tell people where you got it. NC means it's not commercial, you can't sell it. And SA means you have to share alike. So if you use any of our material, you have to allow others to use it. So we use the SoftChalk templates in order to house all that information. Now, inside this course, you can notice that we use this sidebar. And this sidebar really helps us out to put handouts or additional resources, and the students understand that that's where that information can be found. So it was a good organizational way to put everything in there. Another interesting part of this course is an animation that we were given permission to use. I talked about being able to use external resources, and this is one of those things, and you can see that it functions just as it should if you found it on the website. We can change planets and see their orbits. Again, math teacher, not science, but I can move this around and get some information on it. And with the text popper, we use the source information to just indicate that we have written permission to use this. And I think it's a pretty cool interactivity for the kids to see in their astronomy class. All right, now we're going to AP Spanish. And one of the great parts about this course, we've been working really hard. This is in our current development project right now. It's not completed. But the main thing with this AP Spanish class when we got started on it was that there needed to be conversation. There needed to be listening skills. All of that needed to be there. This couldn't be just a vocabulary course. And so in here we were able to embed these audio files. So I'm going to show you. You don't have to listen long. I don't know how many of you speak Spanish.
Así que cuando viajé a España, estaba llegando a Madrid y tuve que hacer una escala.
But the nice thing about that was you can see, and not all of this, none of this is in English, but this was from Bogota, Colombia. There's one from Lima, Peru. So you're getting different accents and different information. And then here he's asking them questions and about what happened. I did have to look these up, about what happened and how they resolved the situation. So they're listening to this audio, and that gives them the interactivity that they might have had in a face-to-face classroom listening to the teacher speak. But I think it's even more important because they're getting these different dialects and accents here as opposed to just listening to one teacher talk all the time. In AP Environmental Science, you can see that the second page, these look like the text poppers, but these are actually links that allow the students to go out and find some more information about these people, and the teacher can direct them. Perhaps they have to do a project about that, but that was one of the big things, to be able to link so that they could get some additional information from a different source. Now, we talked about being mobile friendly, and I have here This is an iPad emulator, and you can see this is one of our mobile pages in AP Latin. And you can see right here that the activity wasn't available on the mobile device, this one. But this slide presentation here is, and it works beautifully on the iPad. And the nice thing was, and Steve kind of alluded to this, but he did give us a heads up that coming very soon, you know that SoftChalk has some mobile-friendly activities, and then some activities you can build that work on your computer, not so mobile-friendly. But you have to pick and choose which ones you want to do. And the mobile ones worked, but they weren't all available. But as I understand, and Steve can jump in if I'm wrong, as I understand, with the new upgrade, you just create the activity, and SoftChalk will then be able to detect the browser and the platform you're using and deliver it as a mobile-friendly activity if that's what you need, or deliver it, just optimize the delivery so that you get it the way it works best for what you're viewing it on. So that was very exciting, because then the activities will look nice and we don't have to pick and choose which ones we use. So I personally am very excited about that.
Yes, all the learning activities have now become mobile-friendly, going to HTML5. Created so that, yes, it works on mobile devices, it's fully accessible. Good change. Thanks for mentioning it.
Happy to do that. So we're excited about that upgrade that we'll be able to incorporate here soon. This last course I'm going to show you is a middle school math course. And you can see we talked a little bit about using some outside resources. We have some of the SoftChalk activities. You can see here we've incorporated one of the crossword puzzles, which we love those activities. We use these as self-assessment activities for the students and let them kind of go through, and this was for them to practice vocabulary, but they work great for that. But we had some other activities that we thought would be good to incorporate in our course, and like Jay said, we have the teacher resource link that allows us to deliver independent objects. So some of these objects are delivered through that independently, and some of them are delivered, then they can be delivered through the entire SoftChalk. So they might get the whole package, but they could just get this glossary of terms. And we used Articulate Engage to build this, and they can click on these, and it is audio. I'm not going to have you listen to it, but you may be able to hear it in the background. So we also use Captivate. Here's some of the presentations we've done with Captivate. And we also have some Flash activities here built, and these are some little games where the students can come in here and play games. I'll try to get one right. All right. And you can see how that works, and just a little engaging. This is specifically a middle school course, so middle schoolers will just eat those games up. But then again, here we have the SoftChalk information, again, with the sample questions that they can go through and practice. The last part I wanted to show you was what Jay talked about, was our shared resources, and Steve said you'll get a follow-up email that has this information, but I wanted to make sure you knew how to find it. If you go to georgiavirtuallearning.org and you click on our resources site, we have several shared resources out there, and if you just click on the click here below shared, you can then see these are all the subject areas that we have courses for, and here are all the courses we have listed. I'm going to go to CTAE and electives. You can see down here the lower ones that have the OER. Those are open educational resources. So those are courses that we've developed starting last year that include all open resources. So if you go to any of those modules, you can see what each of the modules are. You can view the modules, and so you could deliver these. If you're a teacher now and teaching in a face-to-face classroom, you could use this on your smartboard. You can have the kids actually do the activities. You can play all the audio. You can see all the videos. You can have them do the assessments and everything. So these are fantastic resources for everybody, and we'll be adding to these use our development cycle. So in May, June, July, as we wrap up all of our projects, we'll start putting them up here as new projects, and we have about between 20 and 25 that will be added by the end of the summer to our resources. So we'd love for you to use those too. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Steve and see if there are any questions or anything we can go over, and I appreciate you letting us spend some time with you this afternoon.
Well, thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Jay. There's a bunch of questions, so let me get started with them. Some of them dealt with Creative Commons and, by extension, copyright. And so can you talk about how Creative Commons is used both for importing external content and its use there, as well as for the content you create? I mean, you mentioned OER, so obviously you probably are using Creative Commons licensing in order to make clear exactly how that can be used. Could you talk about that?
Okay, we invited, when we first decided to do this so that we could share resources across the state, we invited David Wiley, who is out of Brigham Young University in Utah, to come and give us a little bit of training on open educational resources and Creative Commons. And we have opted to license our material under the Creative Commons license, which I showed you, that if anybody uses our material, they have to attribute it to us, they can't sell it, and they have to allow others to share it. If they use it, they have to allow others to share it from their site. So primarily the content that we use it comes from two main sources. Either it's teacher-created information. So I don't know if I'm still sharing my screen, but
yes,
if
you are.
Okay, the text that was created, that was written by the teacher or the subject matter expert. And here we're showing a Captivate presentation, and that would have been created by the instructional designer and the teacher. So that is all teacher-created information. Now, not everything, we can't create everything we need, so we have trained our teachers. That's one of our things in our subject matter expert course, is how to find those things that are either open educational resources, and we make sure we cite, where we got it from and direct them back to the original site, or we find those other items that are Creative Commons. It takes some practice, I'll tell you, because if it's licensed under the same license that we opted for with the Creative Commons, then we can just put it in the course and the license carries over. If it's licensed differently, then we have to indicate that in the course. But you can find so much out there now. I mean, we had some skeptical subject matter experts that said, I'm not sure I can find, open stuff. But even in those courses that I mentioned, the epidemiology and the geology courses, we're able to find open resources or those licensed under Creative Commons that we can incorporate into our course.
Right, and let me just make an add-on here that the media search tool within SoftChalk, I hope you have found that easy to find external content and bring that in.
We actually, Steve, don't use that, so that's something I need to talk to you about and find out how that works. So that would be an excellent way to look for resources. We typically have them go to, there's a way out of Google search, you can go to advanced and sort by license, which helps tremendously.
Yeah, SoftChalk has licensed access to dozens of external databases, and with the media search tool, you put a search, search parameters there, and it simultaneously can search multiple institutions, and often they have Creative Commons licensing attached, so all that is sort of built in the way they can search. But that's subject for another time. There is some questions about learning management systems, and there was some maybe confusion about the fact that does Georgia Virtual have a single learning management system? Are there multiple learning management systems you have to work with? And bringing in SoftChalk content, is that let's see. How do you use SoftChalk in conjunction with an LMS in your virtual courses was Trish's question. So could you try to sort of address those questions about learning management systems?
Okay, sure. We use Desire to Learn. That's our learning management system, and we currently use just Desire to Learn. Now, these modules that you see here that are pulling for shared are just in our, I want to use the word LOR loosely. We have a storage server that we keep all of this on, so it's pulling just independently, but we do use it in D2L, Desire to Learn, and it's very simple to link. So our courses simply are a series of, say, 8 to maybe 18 SoftChalk modules, so that you would just link. You would see them just like you would perhaps a chapter in a book. It would be a link. It would open the SoftChalk package. You would work through that 7 to 10 days of content. You would go on to the next module or chapter, click on that SoftChalk package. So it works beautifully inside D2L, simple to link. We've used it inside Moodle before, and again, very, very simple to use inside the LMS.
Okay. Let's see. There's a couple of questions, but I think that Trey is asking about which parts of this were created using SoftChalk and what you're looking at now. And since you got off the slides, basically everything you've shown was created in SoftChalk. And you've noted when you've imported content from someplace else, which SoftChalk makes easy. So I just want to sort of make it clear that this is all created in SoftChalk, everything you've looked at and all the 3 lessons and courses you've shown us.
Yeah, all of these lessons were built in SoftChalk, and like Steve said, so we have a few, like this little frame here is actually a Captivate, but you can see how easily it comes in and how seamless it looks. It doesn't look any different than anything else in the course.
Right. There's a question about scoring and students coming in and getting graded and then possibly returning to the lesson again. How does that work?
We don't currently take anything that they do inside SoftChalk. So those activities you saw, like the little multiple choice questions and that, we use those strictly as self-assessment. They are for the kid to complete, check and see if they know what they're doing, ask the teacher if it appears they don't know what they're doing. We have started, it was an LMS thing for us actually because Desire to Learn didn't work well with the importing of the scores. That has been fixed and we have played around with it a little bit. So we can actually import those scores and use them if we opt to. We try to minimize the number of graded assignments that there are, so we'll probably leave them as self-assessments for now. So with that said, I'm not really sure how well they can come back in if they're great scoring things. For us, they just basically remember where they left off. We have some indicators, and I can probably find you one quickly, that tells them when they have, like right here, there's a discussion, and so we have some little icons that remind them where they're supposed to go and do something external inside the LMS. So here they're supposed to stop their work in the module, or at least make note of the fact that they have a discussion assignment to go and do. So then they would go back into D2L, into Desire to Learn, and click on the discussion and go participate in the discussion. And then they would come back. They could either remember or they can cycle just through the pages to find out where they were.
Let me add to that, so you talk about grading and returning. SoftChalk and Desire to Learn have made huge leaps and bounds in the last several months. I had a long conversation today with one of the marketing partnering directors at Desire to Learn, talking about cooperatively doing a webinar so that we can show everybody exactly how seamlessly it now works. And I agree with you, Tammy. There was a challenge up till now in terms of getting the assessment grades from a SoftChalk module in the cloud into a Desire to Learn gradebook. That didn't work really very well. It does now, and it works seamlessly and beautifully. So yes, you should explore it some more because it's something new that SoftChalk and Desire to Learn have worked on together over the last many months to make sure that it worked well. So it's a new ballgame in terms of how you can work, do assessments in terms of the work you do and using the D2L learning management system. Couple more questions, and I think we have a little more time for Q&A. Are your students primarily using content asynchronously in your virtual courses? How does that actually work for the students?
They do typically use the content asynchronously. We have an interesting kind of rolling enrollment, but there's a hard and fast end date. So we allow the students to participate on an 16, 14, 12-week schedule. So we recommend to the students that they need to, the longer they spend, the better off they are generally. So we encourage them to take that longer schedule if it works for their school. And then they work through the modules, but they do have interaction with the teacher. We use Adobe Connect, and the teachers typically do a weekly synchronous session with the students. It's not now mandatory, but again recommended for the students to participate in because that just works much better for them. But yeah, they work through this content. They have a pacing guide, so if you're on this 16-week schedule, you have a calendar that tells you what to do when and when things are due, and the teacher is required to respond to emails, I mean obviously to emails, and get things graded in a timely manner so that you have feedback before anything else is due. So that's how they function in the course typically.
There's a question here that is based on a question that Jay mentioned about personalized learning plans for students and addressing different learning styles. And maybe you know, what role does pre-assessment play in your course content and how your course content is used by students? Maybe one of you want to tackle personalized learning a little bit? Jay, Jay, you turned your mic on. Good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're interested in personalized learning also. Within the SoftChalk package and content itself, it's not, we feel it's personalized, but it's personalized by the student. So by providing material in a variety of ways, students can personalize their learning themselves. And we think that that's an important skill for students to learn because as they move forward in life, they need to understand what's going on. Clearly, as you've seen, that we have a lot of material in our packages, and it's can't be all read and listened to by students. So we encourage students and train our teachers to have students understand what their learning style is and choose the options that work best for them. Now we do in our credit recovery program do pre and post testing. Our teachers do a variety of pre and post understanding of knowledge within their classrooms, and we do that through other desire to learn tools, quizzes, and those type of things. But we have built the courses to try to teach students how to use individualized learning themselves. Maybe they need to read the material, maybe they need to watch the video, maybe they need to watch the video and understand, I didn't quite get it all, so let me see if the reading provides that. So we're big proponents of teaching students how to learn instead of just giving them material.
Okay, great, great. One other question is that you spend a lot of time talking about how the modules are created, and somebody asked for a copy of the Google form you use as a piece of getting educators or your developers to present proposals to you. So I'm not sure if you want to make that available, but somebody was really taken by the fact that somebody's already done that work. But you talked a lot about that piece of it. What about the teachers that will be using these modules, not developing them, if you will, the virtual classroom teachers? What kind of support do they get, or training?
Oh, we have a good training program built into our teacher training program. Teachers are learning how to use the SoftChalk packages. We also bring our teachers together twice a year where they have had an opportunity to understand what SoftChalk is. We've had our development team do presentations on the different aspects of what's in the SoftChalk packages. They learned how to operate around the learning management system through our teacher training program. So we do provide the training on how to use that. Now, all of our teachers who teach a specific course get the same course material, and they have the ability, although they don't have the ability to edit the SoftChalk packages, they have the ability to differentiate instruction through other tools within the learning management system.
Great. Okay. Well, I've taken the stage back, if you will. Thank you, Jay and Tammy. I think we're running close to our time. We have 5 more minutes, and a couple things I want to mention. And mostly I want to talk to you about the fact that this is the 4th in the series of Innovators in Online Learning, dealing with the virtual classroom and the virtual school. And we start in December of 2012 with a combination session, and then we've had specific, the 3 specific virtual schools talk to us. We've recorded every one of those sessions, and my record button is now on for the Georgia Virtual. And each of them had something different in the way their model worked, and some of them were very different. So I suggest that you take a look at the content and visit our website and look at that. But let me just say that several of you have asked about questions that really are specific to how SoftChalk works. So let me tell you, there's a bunch of things you can do. One of them is simply go to the SoftChalk Cloud, softchalkcloud.com, and get a 30-day trial. Play with it, work with it, or get hold of our support desk. Let them know if you have any questions. Got an extraordinary help desk support team and a really good support site as well. We, of course, have webinars like this, including Introduction to SoftChalk Cloud, so the questions about the cloud can be answered during one of those, which take place about once a week. We have sessions like this, Innovators in Online Learning, and next week we are beginning a series on the flipped classrooms. We have 4 educators who have successfully flipped the classroom, everything from chemistry to public speaking to a national program dealing with automotive retraining and others. So in English second language as well. So there's a bunch of different models out there. We're starting that next week. If you want training, we got great training material on our website, from video tutorials and short courses and lesson tutorials. So we create SoftChalk lessons as a tutorial on how to use SoftChalk. So also we have our media availability, so like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, sign up for a newsletter. So finally, I need to thank our presenters. Jay, Tammy, really, really nice job. I thought it went really well. We are recording this session, so tell your friends and your acquaintances that you saw this great session, and you can have them, have your friends